Morning, good afternoon, or should I say good evening. Welcome to another edition of the e-commerce report with me, Mia Lindicke, and our KTU CEO, Steve Orenstein. Steve, I see that the weather is quite warming up there. It's going to be 30 degrees. It's almost like a heat wave there in Sydney at the weekend. They're actually predicting that it's going to be very dry this summer. How is this actually going to play into the logistics sector? What can people do to prepare for it? And, whether it impacts, obviously, food delivery.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think not many people are talking about it here, sort of realizing, I think, over the weekend that there is a bit of a heat wave that's going to occur. And I think a lot of people will be heading to the beach over the weekend. But definitely we've seen, and when we look at the data, particularly in our Zoom to You business, but also even in the Locate You business, where there's different weather things occurring, then there's an impact on delivery. And so when you think about when it's raining, particularly that time in the evenings, and when people are wanting to order their food, there's a huge spike in the number of people actually ordering food. And so what that's going to mean is it's going to mean these delivery drivers are under pressure. They're having to deliver a lot more parcels, and your delivery is now going to be late. So I think when you're thinking about it, just even from a consumer point of view, is if it's raining, probably don't order your food online. Like, just look at other ways of being able to order, and particularly between 6:30 and 8 o'clock, that's when everyone's hungry. And so if it's raining and you're ordering in that time period, it's going to be delayed. You're going to be disappointed, and probably the food quality you're going to receive is going to be, not amazing. So weather definitely does have an impact, probably more so in the colder periods. The hotter periods, I think, you're probably not having as bigger an impact. And then, but I think, you've got to feel for these delivery drivers that are going to be out there in the heat during that time period. And so I think, it's important that delivery drivers are keeping hydrated and looking after themselves during that time period.
Yeah, hungry and waiting for your food is not a good combination.
No, not a good combination at all.
Let's start with the wrap of our e-commerce news for this week, Steve. Amazon, they've got a new delivery option for their customers where, well, it's not actually new. It's always been there, where you can you get your delivery, but they can put it inside your garage door. So then it's obviously out of sight. There's no potential risk like we've just, talked about, those odd weather conditions. But for the first time, they're not actually going to charge Prime members. Now it's $2 for this in-garage delivery. How do you see this playing out? Is this a great move? How does Amazon's in-garage delivery system actually work? And will it take off if people all of a sudden now they have to pay for it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, this is a service, from what I gather, is right now available in the US. It's definitely not available in Australia, and I haven't seen it in other markets. And what they've been able to do is they've been able to use some technology. They're able to connect the app that the driver's actually using to a key that is a digital key that allows them to actually open up a garage, which is, makes a lot of sense. As to why they're charging more money for it, I don't know why, because it means that when the driver turns up, it guarantees they're actually going to be able to deliver that parcel. They're not going to have to do a redelivery. You never get charged for a redelivery. So there's always a cost to the business for having to do a redelivery. And now suddenly they're wanting to charge them more. I can't see the logic behind this. It doesn't make logistics sense and operational sense in doing this. They're looking for more ways to charge their customers more money, but I think this is a bit of a silly move. What it may mean is people decide not to use this service. They're going to, maybe leave the parcel at the front door. They're going to have more stolen parcels. They're going to have to pay for that. It really doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And you wonder if that's not going to cost them even more.
That's right.
If that's not going to happen. So, I mean, there must be a business plan behind this, but we'll have to see in a year's time when they do look at the review of this.
Yeah.
But
it wouldn't surprise me if this decision actually gets reversed at some point in time.
Is it? Yeah. So they say that Amazon says that the customers can actually avoid this fee if they want to schedule all their deliveries for this designated Amazon Day. There's an Amazon Day which is allocated to the specific group of people or in the area, I assume. This could obviously then cause challenges and huge inconvenience for customers. If they want their deliveries urgently, they want it now. Do you think that they might lose customers because of this, or is it not that dramatic?
Look, they're probably not going to lose customers, but I think, if they've got that Amazon Day, that makes sense. And so what they're trying to do, everything in logistics in trying to make it reduce the cost, but also make it as efficient as possible means that you're removing rules and you're sort of saying, okay, well, if we can get as many people as we possibly can to do deliveries on this particular day in this area, then they're going to have greater density. And so the cost to actually do those deliveries will be a lot less to Amazon. And so that makes sense in trying to encourage customers to be delivering at that, on those particular days. So that definitely does make sense. But will it mean that some customers are going to, decide to order less because of this? I think that's going to be the interesting thing to see. I mean, ultimately, e-commerce businesses should be thinking about delivery as a way of how they can get more revenue and more orders from those customers. And so making it as accessible as possible and as cost effective as possible. So it'll be interesting to see, how this actually, goes.
Yeah. Let's stay with Amazon, but I want to look at now the Christmas season coming up, and Amazon is planning to hire 1,000 additional staff for their fulfillment, their logistics, and their delivery roles across the major areas in Australia. So that would be your Sydney, your Melbourne, your Perth. So I want to know from you, Steve, the hiring of extra staff, is that a common practice during the holiday season? And if so, what would you advise for small businesses owners? How can they meet this surge in the order volume?
Yeah, so this is definitely common. And when you're thinking about sort of planning for the peak period, as we call it in logistics, it's like that November and December, you're going to have a massive surge in volume. A lot of logistics businesses could double or even triple their volume during that period. Amazon will definitely see increased surges of volume, and so it makes complete sense that they're actually doing this. They're hiring now for November and December, and particularly as those few days going up into Christmas Day. It makes complete sense, and I think what's clever is you're looking at the people that are actually doing the pick and pack, but I'm sure Amazon's also going to be thinking about their driver network as well. Amazon in Australia, hasn't been here for that long, but they've really started to gain a lot of traction. And I'm speaking to lots of people. They're using Amazon, they're regularly ordering it, and they're ordering from Amazon numerous times throughout the week. And one of the reasons why I think that's happening is because, one, they've got quite a wide range of products that are available on there, but delivery is amazing. Delivery, you order today, you get it tomorrow. It's always, generally very, very efficient and very, very quick. And they've got these really late cutoff times. So even if you're ordering at 11:30 at night, you can be still expecting that package to arrive the next day. And so there's not too many other retailers that are able to do that. And I think Amazon has spent and invested a huge amount in making delivery work really well for their business. And that's resulting in revenue growth. Definitely can see that happening.
Yeah. And what advice do you have for companies when they say, but I mean, they're already strapped for cash and they don't have enough money now to go and spend extra on these logistics for the festive season? I know that you're going to say one of the best tools is route optimization to get as many of those parcels out as fast as possible. But, what advice do you have for these small businesses who can't actually add extra staff during the season?
Yeah, I think it's always a balancing act, and what you want to be doing is making sure that as you're getting more orders, you're increasing and maintaining your staff numbers. But definitely, route optimization is going to make things more efficient, and so it's around how you can be more efficient in the way in which your business is operating, and how can you scale your business as the business starts to increase. And so does that mean sort of using some automation and being able to automate the customer service experience? Does that mean instead of sending it out to a third-party courier to do those deliveries, you're managing a certain subset of those deliveries yourselves internally and using a contracted driver to do that? I think there's lots of different things that a business can do. And, one of the things, particularly as you're going into Christmas, is you're thinking about there are cutoff times. If you're using a traditional courier provider like Australia Post or others, they cut off and they say on this particular day, anything that gets ordered after this day won't get delivered before Christmas. And so suddenly your customers will stop ordering from you online. And if you can extend that through running your own network or running your own drivers to actually do those deliveries, you will increase your revenue. And so you'll definitely get more customers. And I've seen this with e-commerce businesses taking this and doing this themselves, but even other logistics companies where they might have been handing over some volume of deliveries to Australia Post or other providers. They bring it back inside. Their delivery costs might increase for that period, but it means that they're actually able to deliver before Christmas Day. And you don't want to be the person that is ordering online and then not actually being able to deliver to your customer, particularly if you're an e-commerce and retail business, and not being able to deliver that Christmas present. It's definitely important.
There will be tears around the Christmas tree.
Right, exactly.
Let's look now at Flexport, a story that I've been covering quite extensive here at Locate2U. Flexport, they've been in the news for the last, I would say, 2 weeks almost, for their leadership problems and the HR mishaps. And then in the midst of all of this, they launched a new e-commerce tool. Now, very surprising is that CEO, let's just summarize it, is Dave Clark resigned. The founder, Brian Peterson, he stepped in. And then last weekend, he fired 70 people over Twitter. Well, not fired. They were supposed to start on Monday. And over the weekend, he sent out, saying, sorry, but you cannot come to work, on Monday. We don't have any position for you anymore. So it was basically on social media. And other executives now who followed Clark from Amazon to Flexport, they've now also left Flexport. So, I mean, quite dramatic scuffling and shift in the leadership here. Some can say that it is Peterson, the founder, flexing his muscles, stating clearly on social media that he's cleaning up whatever happened there at Flexport. So tell us a little bit from your side, how have the markets reacted to all of these dramatic changes, Steve?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I mean, Flexport is a business that's in logistics. It's a startup, but it's actually quite a substantial company. I mean, they've raised over $2 billion over time since they've actually begun. And their business model is around primarily has been around international freight, getting freight in from overseas, from China, bringing that product into the country and doing that really cost effectively. Now, what's happened over the last couple of years during COVID, the cost of bringing a container in from China dramatically increased, and it increased like a huge number. Like it went from maybe being $1,500 for a container to bring that in from China into the US to suddenly going up to $10,000 to $15,000. And so what that meant for someone like Flexport, who was doing a lot of this for their customers, is their revenue grew dramatically, and on that revenue they were taking a margin. They were probably taking, I don't know specifically exactly what it was, but they might have been taking 10, 20% of that total revenue as their actual profit. And so their profits grew, their staff grew, their headcount grew, their overall costs grew inside of that business, and they probably became profitable during that period because it was just such enormous amounts of growth. Now suddenly, what's happened is the demand for containers coming in from China has dropped dramatically, and the costs have now dropped. And so you've seen now the container prices returning back to being somewhat normal, and so they've reduced dramatically. And so what that's then meant is the Flexport revenue has actually dropped dramatically as well. And so that's really impacted their business. And then what I think has then happened is they haven't actually adjusted their cost base based on the downward trend of this revenue that's actually occurred. And so, they would have been burning a huge amount of cash inside of that business. And suddenly now they need to make some pretty drastic changes to what's actually happening to conserve cash. They've spoken about, having huge amounts of office space. They've gone and taken all these leases. They've got large amounts of overheads, and they need to turn this business around, and they need to do it really quickly. And that's probably best led by a founder to actually make those really difficult decisions to, reducing headcounts, saving costs, but also continuing to innovate and looking for other products that they can actually do to actually grow revenue inside of their business. Inside of this, they've also made some acquisitions. They took over the acquisition that Shopify made around a delivery business and 3PL provider where they're doing warehousing for e-commerce businesses, which, there's huge amounts of complexity around how that actually operates. And so, I think there's lots of drama inside of this business. I think there's some, real challenges as to whether this business is going to survive. They do have sufficient capital right now, but there's a lot of work to do. I think that the founder, is likely going to be able to take this business and really make some changes. But I think there's going to be a lot of changes over the coming months, and I think there's going to be a bit of a shake up in terms of the people there. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. And ultimately, it's the solution they're providing their customers. Is it delivering value, and are they going to be able to continue to keep on seeing more and more new customers come on board and help those customers? And they've come out and said numerous times they're very focused on their customers, and they need to be spending time with their customers. And one of the big differences between the founder and the previous CEO was, the previous CEO didn't spend enough time with customers and understanding their problems. And, when you're selling a B2B product, that's really, really important.
From your side, you've had multiple businesses, you've started your own businesses, you've got successful businesses at the moment. What lesson do you learn from that? If there's one golden rule that you can take out of all of this that you would like to pass on to other businesses, people looking for advice, what can we learn from this?
Oh, there's probably a lot of different lessons here. I think it's really hard to bring in a CEO that isn't necessarily an owner of a business. Your business needs to be really established to be able to do that. And their business was established. Suddenly they had a huge downward trend of no revenue, and so that made it really challenging. I think it's continuing that culture inside of a business and making sure that you're always, no matter how big you actually get, you've always got a culture of growth, and you continue to innovate and improve, and also make really difficult decisions. Sometimes you might grow too quickly, and you have to peel back, and you have to make those decisions quickly. And often business owners don't want to make those difficult decisions. They don't want to reduce their headcount. They don't want to reduce costs because it impacts people. And that's really, really challenging. But sometimes you have to make those really challenging decisions in the best interest of the overall company. And, those are difficult decisions. And I think that's what hasn't happened. And I think the board has probably been, somewhat asleep as to seeing not making those difficult decisions and letting this play on for far too long.
Yeah. Let's look now at a slight reprieve, actually. UPS, now they have also announced that their increases for 2024, and that comes just shortly after FedEx also raised their prices. And they always, for the last, how many years, they've been increasing their prices in the same margin. So now it is actually going up by nearly 6% in general. But if you look at the statistics for the last 7-8 years, it was quite normal on 4.9%. And then during COVID, 22, 23, this year, it spiked to about 7%. And now it's going down to 5.9%, the annual increase in general. How do they determine these prices, Steve? Because it feels like who's in charge of this? Who gets to decide when it should go up and when it should come down?
Yeah, it is very interesting. And, one of the interesting things, like my background's always been in technology, and suddenly I'm in this world of logistics through the starting of the building of the Zoom to You business. And I didn't really understand, when I first started this, what actually was happening, and that every year there was this price increase that was taking place. And often these price increases happen very close to the Christmas peak period. And they're a little bit strategic in when they're doing these price increases, because, if you're getting that price increase in September or October, you probably don't have time to actually change logistic providers, or it's going to be really difficult to actually do that. And so they don't do that. They get through the next period, and then, they forget about it, and life just continues on. And so, there is always this, every year there's a price increase with most logistics companies that they sneak through. And, it makes sense because, everyone's had cost increases of staff and other things from inflation. But most of these logistics companies also have a fuel levy, and the fuel levy increases on a monthly basis, or increases or decreases based on the cost of fuel. And so, this is interesting, and it's been going on for a long time.
So I never thought of that. It's a strategic move. It's a strategic move, like you said, because everybody's already planning for the festive season, so you can't change now. It's very clever.
Yeah.
But is there then a situation later next year that you can negotiate these prices, or is it kind of set in stone?
Oh, look, I think what businesses want to be thinking about is you don't want to be reliant on just the one carrier. You want to have a multi-carrier solution. You want to not be reliant on any particular one of those. And then be thinking about, okay, well, how do I get the best value for that? Is it the carrier? Is it, and it's not always about finding the cheapest carrier, because if you're always looking for the cheapest carrier, you're probably going to have a poor delivery experience. And courier companies need to make money. If they're not going to make money, they're going to die. And then what you don't want to do is you don't want to have one major courier company in the whole of your country, because otherwise they just have the ability to increase prices into the future once there is no competition. So it's important that there is multiple courier companies available. It's important they make money, but you don't want to be reliant on any particular one of those. And having a multi-carrier solution is going to be really important. And also choosing different courier companies that specialize in different types of things. There's companies that do interstate work better than what they do local work, and being able to say to them, if I give you this type of work, or if we reach this amount of volume, how does that impact your pricing as well? And it might be even things like, you might offer your customers a faster level, but also a slower level of delivery, and that's then at a lower price point. But I would always be really careful around just being focused only on price. I think you need to be focused on what's the overall customer experience that you're looking for your customers to experience. And that's going to, if you're delivering a really great experience, that will result in more revenue for your business. And I think Amazon's a great case study in that. Amazon has grown as big as they are because of delivery.
Sure. Yeah. Let's look at our last story, and that is in the technology sector. There is an AI lawsuit storm brewing, and it's actually gaining momentum. It's been coming for quite a few months, actually, but more writers are now suing OpenAI for the copyright infringement, and that's including the Pulitzer Prize winner Michael Cabin. Now, they claim that OpenAI AI copied their work without their permission to teach these ChatGPT to respond to human text prompts. Now, we know, for instance, that in Australia, the government is also investing in AI just to boost small businesses. When we look at other countries like India, they've also allocated a portion of their budget to the development of small businesses and to be open to AI. But what does this mean, this copyright infringement for small companies, especially when you look at content? If you look at so many of these companies are using AI, what does it mean for small businesses? Should they be scared?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be very interesting. These legal cases will become landmark cases, and this will be the reference for everyone looking at these cases into the future. It's probably going to take some time to play out, because they'll definitely go through to the highest court. They're going to go through many levels of appeals as they whatever the results actually occur. And I think it's going to be really important to see what actually takes place here. It's interesting. You even look at what's happened recently with the social media platforms, and potentially here in Australia and different to other parts of the world, where essentially Facebook and others were forced to actually pay the media companies money for taking their content. And of all the content that they were producing, they actually had to pay, like Facebook had to pay these media companies money for all that content that they're producing. And so this might be something the same, where OpenAI is going to have to pay money to these companies for using their work. But then you could argue, well, Google uses everyone's work today. It produces that work. I guess what it is different in OpenAI is that you're able to say, write me a piece of work that is similar to this type of work, or in this particular style of writing. And that's going to be interesting. So yeah, look, it's definitely going to be interesting and something to watch out. I don't think, from a small business point of view, I don't think there's any risk in terms of continuing to use ChatGPT or others. And I think there's a lot of things that you can start thinking about as how you can use it inside of your business, and particularly around creating documentation that says this is how different parts of your business actually operates, and so that you can start being able to pass that information into ChatGPT for other staff members to actually say, well, how do I do this? And then it can be able to answer that, and then ultimately be able to build chatbots where they can answer questions directly to your customers in real time.
Yeah, no. And I mean, I think you would know more than anyone else, like there's always some resistance from communities whenever there is new software or new technology being
Definitely, definitely,
introduced.
definitely. Yeah,
But if it
absolutely.
wasn't for new technology, we wouldn't be here and be chatting to one another from two different parts of the world.
Yeah,
So
look, exactly. I mean, you know, technology takes time for people to adopt it. And, you think about the first time that you've caught your first Uber and it felt a bit weird. You were jumping into someone else's car and you're like, what is this? Is this normal? Maybe I felt more comfortable jumping into a taxi. And then suddenly everyone was doing it and everyone became comfortable. And now you jump into an Uber every day and you don't feel uncomfortable in actually doing that. So I think adoption of this sort of stuff takes time to evolve.
absolutely. And before you know it, we're going to be in taxis without a driver. But it is
Exactly.
happening. We just need
Definitely.
to adapt to it. But that's a wrap from our side. Steve, thank you once again. And we'll see you then next time, same time, same place.
Perfect. Thanks, Mia. Thanks, everyone.